Hey guys, welcome back to Concordia Jedi. We're here with our first ever Q&A video. You guys asked some questions in a previous video from a few months ago where I said you can ask any questions and we'll answer them when we do our first Q&A. And then I put up a community post just yesterday where you guys could ask some questions. So we're going to be answering some of them here today. If we get more following this, we'll definitely do another one shortly after. So let's see here. Let's get into the first question. So, our first question comes from Time Toast, and he says, "What brought you into Star Wars in the first place? And have you made any friendships or bonds from Star Wars? I appreciate the content you do, and anyone working with you are doing well." Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate the viewership. So it's kind of a hard question to answer. I got into Star Wars at a very, very young age, most likely 3 or 4. But the first time I really remember considering myself a major fan was when I first remember seeing A New Hope, and it was here at the place where I now work. I'm working security when I'm not doing these videos. But there was an auditorium, and the student activity board was hosting a movie night for the campus and its families. And they were showing Star Wars, A New Hope. And watching that it drew me in so much, and I loved it, and I've been a fan ever since. And it was always kind of weird growing up because a lot of, most of the other kids were into like football or baseball, basketball, all these different sports. I was never really into sports. So I was the kind of weird kid outside swinging around a lightsaber. But when I got into college, I did find some people that I shared these common interests with. Mainly my good friend Thomas, who is the co-founder of Concordia Jedi, and my 2 good friends Aaron and Joe. All of us are very big Star Wars fans. We all have different opinions, different views, but that's what makes it great. We've all just kind of bonded over a mutual love of Star Wars and entertainment in general. So yes, thank you, and Time Toast, yes. We really appreciate the viewership. Our next question comes from Alan, please add details. And he says, "Do you think the voice actors for Star Wars animated content are not mentioned or given much praise as much as the live action actors?" Absolutely. So, voice acting in many ways, unless you're like one of the greats like Mel Blanc or Jim Cummings, voice acting is often a thankless job in a lot of ways, because what people are seeing on the screen is not necessarily your performance. Now there's some times where it is, things like motion capture where the actor doing the voice is also providing motion capture, so in a lot of ways it is their performance. But with something like Star Wars The Clone Wars, take James Arnold Taylor. I'm sure everyone knows who Ewan McGregor is as Obi-Wan. Most people know who Alec Guinness is, but not as many people know James Arnold Taylor, and it's a shame because James Arnold Taylor is one of the greatest Obi-Wan Kenobis we've ever had. And the fact that it's just his voice giving this amazing performance combined with great visuals provided by the effects team, you often forget, to give appreciation to the one providing the voice. Other actors too, like voice actors, like for Star Wars, Ashley Eckstein, Matt Latner, Sam Witwer, sorry. Just all these wonderful, very talented voice actors who are huge inspirations for me when it comes to my voice acting. They all put in so much work because voice acting, if you are unaware, is extremely difficult, oftentimes very tedious and time-consuming. Trying to make sure you get every take exactly right, trying to figure out how to keep a certain voice going while conveying certain emotions and not breaking out of that voice. It really is a tough process if you've never tried it. Now, I've always said anyone can be a voice actor. It's just a matter of finding a voice that suits you, finding your range, and practice. But with all that said, with as difficult as voice acting is, it's often overlooked in a lot of areas. Like it's in a lot of ways there's and not a stigma, but there's a lot of things people don't take into consideration when it comes to the voice actors, and that's A, how difficult their job is, B, how tough it is just to get the job. Like auditions for some of the Star Wars projects, they have lists miles long of actors they want to go for, or it can go in the opposite direction. They have one specific actor they want, and they'll do anything they can to get them. So yeah, I do think the voice actors are unappreciated. Really, if you follow any of these people on Twitter, or if you don't follow them, go follow them, like, show your support, or on Facebook, or whatever social media, because these guys definitely deserve it. So, thank you very much, Alan. Please add details. Our next question comes to us from Chuma Works. Sorry. And this came from the community post earlier yesterday. He says, are there any plans for Star Wars audio stuff besides Cassius, or perhaps some live action fan film stuff? It's funny you mention that, because for months I've been stewing around this idea in my head. I would love to do just a short, maybe 10-15 minute fan film on Kyle Katarn from the Expanded Universe, because he is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, and by far my favorite character in the Expanded Universe, or Legends. And I'm thinking, if we did it, you know, our budget would not be great, we would not have top tier cameras, but it would be something I would absolutely love to do. So at some point, maybe I'll set up like a crowdfund for it. When we get enough subscribers or people interested, I'll see if you guys are into it. I'll set up a crowdfunding and we'll try to get it done. As for audio, right now I am trying to focus mainly on the story of Cassius, and that is primarily because I've done so many projects in the past that I started and didn't finish because I just loaded my plate up with too many different things. And so when it comes to audio right now, I'd like to keep the focus on Cassius so that I know what I'm doing and I can mainly focus on just that. That doesn't mean that it's only going to be Cassius videos going forward. You're going to have more stuff from me, more audio, more voices, more drama. But as for like full stories, right now I am mainly focusing on Cassius because if I haven't mentioned this before, it is going to be a several part story. Let's see how many. Wow. Let's see. One, two. Yeah, it's about it's a 8 or 9 part story. So strap in. There's going to be more coming, and I do hope you guys are enjoying it. If not, I do hope to win you guys over at some point. But do know that this is something I'm committed to. Like, I will be putting up his entire story. But yes, I would love to do some live action stuff in the future. It's just a matter of budget and time and money. Budget is money, but whatever. Budget, time, and equipment. We'll call it that. But thank you very much, Chuma Works, for your comment and for your continued viewership. Our next question comes from Lucas Karsher. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Where did you get the idea for Cassius? That's a good question. So the earliest ideas for Cassius came to me when I was in, I'd say I was just in freshman year of high school. This was years and years ago, like even before Disney purchased Star Wars. So long before, Jedi Fallen Order, long before this new trilogy, long before any of this stuff, I had this idea in my head of a Padawan surviving through the Jedi Purge and having to, kind of find a new path in the galaxy. And when it first started, I don't even remember what I called him. Like, so many things changed to to the point where if I went back to the original ideas I had for Cassius, it would look strikingly different from what we've been getting now. I've gone back, I've rewritten so much, and I've just kind of tweaked a lot, reworked, added certain things. But the idea, I think, just came from a desire for me to kind of push myself in an area of creative writing, where I wanted to tell a story that wasn't going to just be a copy and paste. Oh, this Jedi survives Order 66. Oh, he goes in the shadows. Oh, he aids the rebellion. Oh, he fights Darth Vader a bunch of times. No. The story of Cassius is going to be very, very different following the Jedi Purge. I'm not going to give really much away, but know that it does get very, very bleak in terms of the story direction and where this whole new section of his life takes Cassius in terms of, I'll just say this, compare where we see Cassius at the beginning of the first book, Cassius Jedi Apprentice, and to where we see him at the very last book. I won't reveal the name just yet, but I do have the name. And you will see a very complex, but also a very, sad journey for this character. This is not a typical hero is down for a little bit and then rises back to the top kind of story. So when I have more information to share with you guys as the stories are coming out, I will. If you have any more questions, I always love answering questions about the Cassius stories. So thank you very much, Lucas, for your question. And our final question here comes from Milkman McGee. He asks, which character voice impressions do you consider the easiest to get into, and was there a particular one that became difficult and took a lot longer to learn when compared to the others? So there's been a lot of voices that I realized were very easy for me to do. Ones that I didn't know I could do until I just tried it, and I kind of had it. One of those, there's a channel who I collaborate with a lot, The Last Prime, and I've provided a lot of voiceover for him in the past. And he asked if I could do the character of Frieza from Dragon Ball Z, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, it's a very high-pitched voice. He's like, well, just give it a try. I'm like,
well, okay. How does this sound, you filthy monkey?
And like from there, I realized, oh, I can do that voice. And I just kept practicing that, getting better and better and better, to the point where now it just takes a short warm-up and I can hop right into it at any point. Other voices too, like Darth Maul, Obi-Wan was also surprisingly easier for me to get into when I realized I have that same kind of standard speaking voice or vocal range as James Arnold Taylor. Like, when speaking as Obi-Wan Kenobi, we have that same kind of timbre in our voice. Like, that same, you know what I'm talking about. It's that same kind of level. But then there's other voices I've tried to do, like Cad Bane. He was a little tricky. It didn't take me too long to get him down, but the time it took to
figure out how to manipulate my voice so I could do the Cad Bane voice was very difficult.
It was all a matter of how I tilt my head. Like notice this. This is me with my head directly upward. This is it with it tilted to the side.
Then if I just speak out of the side of my mouth, add a little bit of a growl, and then close off my nasal passages, then I'm Cad Bane.
He was tricky. Palpatine is probably one of the harder ones that I've done, because if you listen to Palpatine, he does have a deeper voice, and it's just harder for me to hop into that one. If I tried to list off all the different voices I could do, we'd be here forever. But most of them are fairly easy for me to get into now. Some of them that were more difficult are usually the ones that I feel aren't ready yet. I usually don't put out new voices unless I feel it's set and ready and that I can hop into it on a moment's notice. But to the question of the hardest one, is there a particular one that became difficult and took a lot longer? Ooh, I'd say probably the one that took me the absolute longest was Count Dooku. Count Dooku has a very deep voice, and it wasn't until I got a few tips from a friend of mine who's kind of like my vocal coach in a lot of ways on how to deepen my voice. And once he taught me that, I realized, oh wow, okay, so that's something. And I just took just practice. Very similar to how it was doing the Anakin Skywalker Clone Wars voice, because unlike so many of the other voices I do, his voice is unique but not necessarily distinct. If you heard it in a crowd, you'd just think it's some other guy. So it was a matter of like kind of finding that same matching timbre and rhythm and tempo and all that stuff. But yes, to answer your question, some voices are harder than others. Some voices are very easy for me to do. And usually the easier voices are the ones I bust out more often. Thank you very much, Milkman McGee, for your question. And thank you to all of you for joining into this Q&A video. I hope you guys had some fun. Leave your questions in the comments or in the posts or wherever, and we'll do another Q&A video very soon. Thank you again for over 1,000 subscribers. Guys, I cannot thank you enough. We'll see you next time on Concordia Jedi.